Trigger warning. Story involves cheating and suicide.
Wife of 16 years has basically ghosted us for the last 3 days. Pretty lost with my current situation, looking for any sort of insight. Wife 39 female and I 40 male have been married for 16 years. As mentioned, we have 3 daughters, 15, 13, 11. We're high school sweethearts. Been together for about 22 years now. I have limited information, but here's what I know. 3 days ago, my wife returned home from work. She had to work the following day. She seemed frantic and emotional, hastily packed an overnight bag and left. I only became aware of this because our oldest daughter was at home and witnessed the situation. Despite attempting to talk to her, my wife was crying, distraught, and remained silent. She mentioned she was almost in a panic. Despite our attempts to reach out through texts and calls, she hasn't responded. I reached out to her parents, and they assured us that she's safe with them, asking for patience and understanding. Beyond that, I contacted her sister, brother, and a close work friend. Her brother claimed he had no information, and her work friend mentioned she was at work in the morning but gone by lunch 3 days ago. That's all she knew. That's it. 3 days now. No contact from my wife. Not even with the kids. Nothing. No one is telling us anything. And here I am with my 3 girls trying to manage without her. Kids keep asking me what's going on, asking what happened with mom, and all I can say is that she's at grandma and grandpa, and we're supposed to be patient and understanding. I have an overwhelming urge to just pack up the kids quick and drive over there without warning. It's only 3 hours away, and sitting here in limbo is awful. The kids think we had a huge fight and are divorcing, but that's farthest from the truth. We never fight. The kids know this. I don't know what's going on, but can someone provide some clarity from a logical perspective? In my current emotional state, I find myself caught in a whirlwind of thoughts as I navigate everything without her. If someone passed away, wouldn't your spouse's family be the first people you'd inform? Perhaps some past trauma has resurfaced. Yet if it were me, my wife would be the first person I'd turn to for support. At the moment, we are left with a void of information. Nothing makes sense. I don't know what to do. And I just sit here in limbo with the girls. We all know nothing, and no one is telling us anything. And it has me worried, scared, angry, etc. Just about any emotion one can feel in this situation. Can anyone come up with something reasonable? Why would you ghost your family like this? OP provided an update, confirming that everyone was correct about the affair. I'll share what I know and leave it at that. My father-in-law didn't call me last night, so eventually I contacted the police for a wellness check, as many of you suggested. This action led to a storm of issues that I won't delve into. But my wife has been having an affair for at least 2 years now, likely longer. Everyone was correct. The other man apparently had a heart attack on Tuesday and eventually passed away that night. For certain, my mother-in-law, and it sounds like probably my sister-in-law, have known about it and have been covering for her. Still no contact from my wife, not to me or the girls. Trying to keep this from them for now. Honestly, no idea what to do from here. That's all I know. And that's enough to just about be the end of me. Thank you for all of the help advice. Not sure how to move on from this news, but that's it. If you pray, please pray for me and us. Now to the second update. I've been recommended this by a few others. Just joined and have been reading through many posts when I have time. Mostly at night when the chaos of the day ends. And then, of course, the brain takes over and I go through these fits of depression. Then I get hit with raging anger. Then both at the same time, sleeping is nearly impossible. I aimlessly navigate through the day in a zombie-like state, attempting to familiarize myself with various acronyms, I suppose. My personal D-Day occurred on Friday when I discovered that my wife, whom I initially believed to be involved in a 2-year affair, may have been engaged in infidelity for an even longer duration. The person she cheated with, referred to as the AP, was someone she had known for quite some time. The revelation came to light tragically when he passed away from a heart attack. I'm still digging for information with the help of my oldest daughter. Lots of things I'm not ready to post about. Really had no plans of continuing to make posts about my situation. But so many people have offered so much help advice. It's almost become therapeutic. It hurts to know so many other people are suffering through this kind of pain. For that, I'm so sorry. I met with 2 different lawyers both yesterday and today to discuss options. Contacted several places regarding therapy too, but there are very long waits where I live, trying to adhere to many suggestions others have made. Avoid alcohol, but I don't drink, and never have. Self-care, workout, etc. I'd consider myself in very good shape for someone my age, but hard to find the energy to work out right now. I anticipate that some of you may inquire about the specifics, the whos, whats, whens, and whys. However, please bear with me as I am not yet prepared to delve into those details. Each day feels like a new explosion, and at this point I'm seeking advice on just one aspect, so that I can perhaps find some solace and get a bit of sleep. The title of my post encapsulates my sentiments. My wife was everything to me, my best friend since high school, the mother of my 3 beautiful daughters. I mean, we have inside jokes and secret handshakes. Man, it's all gone. Everything, it's just all gone. I think about all of our years together, every milestone, every laugh, and now I just get so very depressed. It's crippling. It's as though it all meant nothing to her. And now my future will be without her. And then, of course, the how could yous creep in, and I get overcome with this unquenchable, raging anger. I scream into my pillow and punch the mattress until my arms cramp. It's a horrible cycle. I only sleep out of pure exhaustion. Then I'll wake up suddenly and the mind games begin anew. Any energy I do have, I dedicate to my girls who've been trying to take care of me like they're the parents. It's unjust to put them through this. Could you share your experiences with sleep after discovering the affair? How did you cope with the deafening silence and the emptiness of the night, left alone with your thoughts? I've resolved to make my daughter's sleep needs my top priority throughout this ordeal, but I'm struggling. I'm hopeful that you can offer some guidance. Thank you, everyone. Third update. Apologies for still being relatively new to Reddit. Not sure how much of my situation I'm supposed to repeat or reiterate, but it's been just over a week since my day. And since that day, I've learned my wife's affair was well over 4 years. Still no exact timeline. Very likely it started emotional and then turned physical. I'm curious how the pandemic and lockdowns played into this. 2 questions I may or may not get the answers to. Anyway, yesterday my in-laws made an impromptu visit to see their grandkids. Wayward wife has been crashing at their house since this nightmare began, which is complete and total BS, of course, as they spent all of 15 minutes greeting the girls. Wife and I have 3 daughters before asking to speak with me in private. It was a long conversation, as you might expect, one which I don't want to dialogue in its entirety on this post. But long story short, my wife wants to come home, but she fears the backlash of her actions and is afraid to face what she's done. Her parents also dug very hard, trying to determine whether or not I planned on divorcing, and spent considerable time trying to sway me toward forgiving my wife and trying to rebuild the marriage. They appeared visibly ashamed and embarrassed, yet it was evident that they desired my wife to leave their home. The exchange was conducted in a civil and respectful manner. I must confess I misled them by stating uncertainty about my future plans, as my intention is to proceed with a divorce. However, I fear that revealing my decision might hinder my chances of extracting the truth from my wife. While I acknowledge I may never fully uncover the truth, I am determined to have her sit before me and provide an explanation, if possible. Over 17 years of marriage and being together since high school, 3 kids, countless memories, and all that we've shared. I want her to look me in the eyes and tell me everything. I also want my kids to know that I gave her a chance to explain herself, that I gave her the opportunity to apologize and handle things together as mature adults. I keep trying to choose the path that will set the best example for my kids. I don't know. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. Legally, I cannot keep my wife out of our home. Lawyer made that very clear. So if my wife is going to come home, I can't stop her though. I absolutely do not want this right now. My girls and I have actually started to settle into a nice routine, so I made a demand that I felt would be unachievable for a while. I said my wife could come home if when she sat down with me in person, looked me in the eyes, and revealed everything about her affair. Start to finish answering any and all of my questions without hesitation or further deceit, and then sat down with the girls and apologized in person and answered their questions too. Considering they are already aware, I believe it's only fair. Legally, she has the right to return home at any time and isn't obligated to comply with any demands. However, if she's hesitant to face us, perhaps I could leverage that to our advantage. I want to clarify that I'm not aiming to be devious or deceptive. I simply want to postpone cohabitation if possible, as I'm not ready for it at this point. There is a mandatory 90-day waiting period in our state before divorce can happen anyway. Her coming home is inevitable. We'll both have to go back to work eventually, and life will go on regardless of this mess. I just like to prolong it so I can plan and get into a better state of mental and emotional health. My wife has been texting the girls, and she claims that she doesn't want to divorce and keeps apologizing to them repeatedly. They've shown me the texts, asks about me daily, and the reality of what she's done to all of us is hitting her hard, especially in the last couple of days. How do I manage this? Was my demand foolish? It sounds like my wife is going to be coming home sooner than later anyway. I feel confident in my path forward right now. I'm not rattled by this as I knew it would happen eventually. I just want to make the best decision for my daughters, and then myself, as we move forward. Thank you to each and everyone that's been offering encouragement, advice, and support. Fourth update. This will be rather anticlimactic, but apologies for the length. I just need to get this out. I had a terrible weekend. However, my wife returned home yesterday after a considerable build-up throughout the week. In the past, I would greet her with a hug and a kiss the moment she entered the doorway. But this time, an incredibly uncomfortable awkwardness hung between us. Although she attempted to initiate a hug before saying anything, I turned away as if nothing had happened. The situation felt surreal. After she settled, I naturally asked her to tell me everything, and she again reiterated that she's not ready. We had spoken on the phone earlier in the week, same result. I insisted that the only condition of her moving back home was that she loved the family enough to explain why she's been absent for going on 3 weeks. But she just repeated that she just wasn't ready for that. It took a lot to not scream at her, but I took a couple of deep breaths and tried to compose myself. I failed, and after the first of many very long pauses, I just blurted out that she'd been having an affair for over 4 years with this coworker of hers, planned on leaving me for this other man, ghosted her whole family, and now walks through the door without fulfilling the one single condition that I had asked for and that I wanted to divorce. I guess this is when things got weird. Her body language and facial expression made it obvious. She had no idea how much I knew about her affair. She glanced at me, wide-eyed, then just stood there in the kitchen, staring at the floor, said nothing, just stoic. I was expecting anything. Everything but this. Maybe an emotional tirade. Maybe a teary-eyed confession. I anticipated various reactions when my wife returned, perhaps screaming, yelling, or placing blame on me for the affair. I was ready for a serious tone, thinking we could sit down and talk things through. However, what unfolded was entirely different. We stood in the kitchen in absolute silence for what felt like 5 minutes. It was the strangest moment I've ever experienced. Neither of us knew what to say, and the awkwardness was palpable. I had read all of your comments, advice on my situation. I even took notes. I sat in front of a mirror and had prepared myself for all possible scenarios that this confrontation might present. Except this one, so I eventually decided right then and there to map out everything I knew about her affair. Maybe dumb of me proceeded to tell her everything that I knew. Admittedly, adding in my own assumptions about several things, how she met a fair partner, her sister's involvement, what went on during COVID, etc. She just stared at the floor the entire time. I got angrier as I went along because she said, did nothing. But I did everything I could not to raise my voice or get obscene. I finally composed myself. Then there was another lengthy, awkward silence. Then anger switched to sadness at the realization of everything. I then softly asked her what I did to push her away. Did she ever love me? And was he a fair partner worth it? She said nothing, didn't budge, didn't move, just nothing from her at all. No tears, no apology, no yelling, no explanation. She just stood there with her head down, offering nothing. The pain I felt at that moment was intense, maybe even worse than D-Day. I found myself staring at her, unsure if I could move. Unfortunately, the situation took a turn for the worse, as our daughters had been eavesdropping on the entire encounter. I felt an overwhelming sense of stupidity, realizing that despite my efforts to prioritize our girls and their needs over the past couple of weeks, the unintended consequences had now unfolded. But I got emotional and didn't give a single thought to their whereabouts once I confronted my wife. So our oldest daughter stormed downstairs and lashed out a lot of pent-up anger on her part. My wife quickly just ran upstairs and locked the bedroom door. That's where we're at now. I heard my wife crying most of the night last night until I fell asleep. Only our youngest has tried talking to her. The rest of us have avoided her. If I can get the courage up, I'm going to suggest she stay with her sister until we're able to finalize the divorce. But this is still her home too. It's just going to be miserable if we all have to cohabitate with her. I was wrong about my wife, and all of you were correct. I was wrong about all of our years together. Wrong about all of the memories, the life-changing moments. I was convinced she dropped to her knees and begged forgiveness. I was so convinced that she would repent of everything from the last 4 years and unload the truth to absolve her guilt. This woman literally drove back to a farmer's market once when she realized she'd been given $10 too much in change, but were not worth it to her. I feel like I'm not worth it to her. Perhaps I never was. Now, what do? Today was incredibly uncomfortable at home. Despite our efforts to carry on as we had for the past 2 weeks, it's evident that maintaining the status quo is no longer possible. I just wish I could fast forward through all of this, bypass the divorce, the awkward conversations, the inevitable arguments and fights, and the drama. I'm particularly thinking about those who have had to cohabitate with their wayward spouse, and I'm eager to move past these challenging times. How did you manage that, especially with kids? I know this is just the beginning. I keep reading all of the posts that promise it gets better, but I'm so far away from that. There's not a single moment when I don't want to scream SOB right now, trying very, very hard to maintain a stable mind for the girls, of course, but don't know if I can keep it up for 3 months. School will start well before all of this is over, too. I guess this is my life now. Thank you all for taking such a vested interest in me. I don't know if the worst is ahead or behind us, but appreciate any all you can offer to get me through the next phase. Fifth update. I'm in a bad way, and have been in a bad way since my wayward wife came home, since I learned of her affair. I've been trying to fake it as best as possible for my daughters. I try to say the right things, think the right things. But tonight, I have to admit the truth. As many of you post daily, it comes in waves. But I was hit with a big one tonight and lost my composure a bit. Divorce papers have been filed, but my wayward wife has not yet hired a lawyer. I've been trying to approach this situation with patience and delicacy, hoping for the possibility of an uncontested divorce that we can mainly handle ourselves. However, after tonight, I'm uncertain. Despite our cohabitation during the week, my wayward wife goes to her sister's on Friday nights and returns home on Sunday nights since she works very close to our family home. But her sister is an hour away, if there's no traffic. For the past couple of weeks, it's been this routine of mostly avoidance, as myself and the girls are trying to carry on normally, while wayward wife kind of just stays to herself. Though there are casual interactions every evening, except that my oldest daughter and my wayward wife aren't speaking after a couple of bad blow-ups. It's for the best right now. Lately, I've been heeding much of all of your advice, along with things I've read. I work very hard on my self-discipline around my wife, and though it takes all my strength and willpower, I've been short and indifferent toward her when we briefly talk, though always polite and respectful. Until tonight, last couple of Fridays, she's come home from work, gotten a few things together, and taken off for her sister's for the weekend before I'm even home from work. But not tonight. She was waiting in the kitchen for me when I got home tonight. I tried to just walk past, but she lightly grabbed me by the hand and asked me if this is how I was going to treat her just because she's not ready to talk to me about her affair. Which, by the way, is the very first time she's so much as mentioned a single word about her cheating. Since this all exploded nearly a month ago, I made an effort. I genuinely tried to restrain myself and just walk away. However, our daughters weren't at home at that moment, and an overwhelming sense of rage built up within me. Eventually, I couldn't contain it any longer, and I unleashed every vice, pain, hurt, ache, rage, and misery I felt onto her. I honestly can't even quantify how long I went on for. Lost all concept of time. I did raise my voice at times, got a little animated and loud. I just broke down and told her how broken I am and the agony that I'm in every day. Everything I've been holding back. Everything that's been tormenting me. I mean, I could make this post 4,000 words long if I tried to recount everything I said. Once I started, I wasn't going to stop. Of course, I cried, got emotional again. I was so freaking angry at myself afterward. I'd been doing so well. Damn it, she got to me. I let her get to me. I knew it would happen. I knew it. Oh, it's been building for a while, and there's only so much I can vent into the weight room. Well, also for the first time, wayward wife actually broke down and got emotional. Surprisingly, started sobbing uncontrollably. Regrettably, this made me happy to see her hurting in the same way that I was. I wish that I didn't care, but there was some satisfaction in seeing her break down finally. Like there is actually someone in there with an ounce of compassion. Surprisingly, she mumbled apologies repeatedly throughout my emotional outburst. Her tears were quite evident, and all she could manage to say was, "I'm so sorry." However, I left the kitchen before she could gather herself enough to articulate anything more. I asked her to please leave me alone. So that's how it unfolded. She lingered around the kitchen for a while before departing once again for her sister's house. The girls got home about a half hour later and knew something had happened. Hard to hide it, but I wasn't ready to talk about anything. And don't think they need to know about this, do they? The two youngest have been doing much better, and I don't want to hinder their progress, and telling my oldest about this would just add more fuel to her fire, which I also don't want. I hate this so much. I hate it. I should have held it together. I should have just given my wayward wife the cold shoulder and walked right past her. I don't know. Now, thinking back, it feels like she was just trying to start a conversation about her affair, but didn't know how and obviously didn't get very far because I exploded. I found myself genuinely concerned about her well-being. I understand that some may criticize me for this, but I don't want any harm to come to her. She's been isolated, left alone with her thoughts, and nearly everyone has turned their back on her. While it's true that she deserves the consequences of her actions, she is still a human being and the mother of my kids. What a setback for me. Really disappointed in myself. Sorry for another long rant. I called my brother and ranted to him too. Man, I'll try to start again Monday. I'm only human. It actually felt good to vent on her, but now of course the regret is hitting me. Should I text my wife or just leave it be? I'm such a mess. But thanks for listening. Thanks for offering me the support. I need to get through all of this. And thank you for all of the advice in the midst of the chaos. We have all started therapy, so that's something. But this is so incredibly hard. Just so hard. Sixth update. I know many of you have reached out to me, and I do appreciate the concern. Many of you were right. Things aren't going well, and I haven't had the chance to be online at all. Initially, I thought of taking a break from the internet, but this week has thrown me off track terribly. It's been an awful experience. My wife hasn't really given me space all week. She's been excessively nice, constantly apologizing for her affair, sobbing, and at times overwhelming me with attempts at physical closeness. She's been knocking on my door at night wanting to talk. I've ignored her some, but talked when I was in the mood. I finally snapped at her Wednesday night, telling her to leave me alone. Then last night it happened just over a month since my soon-to-be ex-wife came back home after her affair blew up. And now, as things have entered this uncomfortable cohabitating routine, she came into my room after the girls went to bed and asked to talk with me in private, differently than she'd been approaching me all week. I thought it at first, but eventually we actually went to the garage and sat in my car so as not to make the mistake of confrontation in front of the kids again. This is lengthy apologies. She told me everything according to her. We were out there for almost 3 hours. I don't know how much to share. I was up all night listening to her sobbing for several hours. Sleep eluded me, and I found myself in a cycle of tears and anger. At times, I struggled to resist the urge to go in and express my anger, only to be overwhelmed by tears again. The emotional turmoil continued in waves. Please forgive me if it takes a day or so to respond to anyone. I just need to get this off my chest and attempt to get some sleep. It hasn't helped having my wayward wife constantly apologizing and begging me for another chance all evening. Tonight, too. Had to leave for a few hours just to get away from her. It is just so painful to be around her. Anyway, she was introduced to her affair partner by her sister well before COVID, dating back about 5 years. Apparently with zero romantic intentions, but he was a higher up at a company she wanted to work for and currently does, and he gave her an N. So her desire to change jobs was not based on her affair. But once she did change jobs, obviously she had extra incentive. Once she got the job, affair partner began flirting with her. Started out as texting, then pictures and more. Texting then became physical. Just before COVID hit, she confessed to her sister and wanted to come clean to me then, but decided to bury it and say nothing. Of course, wife said she went no contact with her affair partner soon after, but as lockdowns and restrictions were lifted, he reached back out to her and she resumed talking to him until the physical side to the affair started up again. Once businesses resumed normal operations, she asserts that she ended the affair a couple of times out of guilt, but ultimately kept going back to him. In essence, the affair never truly ended. She provided a substantial amount of detail, presenting a 5-page packet of handwritten notes outlining the timeline of her affair. She read through the entire account, addressing questions along the way. It was revealed that she had lied about weekend trips with the girls. She lied about traveling for work. She lied about traffic jams, about issues with her parents, about shopping trips, etc., just as I suspected. And the list was extensive. So many lies that I just trusted her. Every word never questioned anything, but they were just a front to be with him. Hearing it all, it just made me feel worse. Everyone was correct about that, but her affection never really dipped while all of this was going on. She never got distant like I read so often. Intimacy did change, but not enough to where I'd see red flags. Anyway, she admits falling in love with a fair partner and wanting a life with him. He was older, divorced, and single, and promised her expensive things, vacations, and all the things he could dote on her with. She began fantasizing about escaping her family responsibilities, describing the thrill of being with him as too enticing to resist. She openly discussed how she grew bored with the daily routines of family life. Her account was remarkably candid, emotional, and appeared to be honest. Midway through, I lost my composure and started crying. Hearing it all was painful, as one would expect. Of course, once she was finished with her confession, she told me how much she loved me and always has, and that she's willing to do everything to try and save the marriage. A lot of you predicted this would happen, but it all just seems so disingenuous to me, like it was rehearsed. I've been with this woman for well over half my life, and I can just tell when she's full of crap. Maybe I'm wrong. Guess it doesn't matter. But I composed myself better than last week. Still got angry and said a few not-so-nice things, including getting a jab in about how her affair partner was seeing multiple women. And she was just one of many that he was willing to toss aside. That seemed to really upset her. A million things have gone through my brain when thinking about this moment when she'd finally confessed. All the one-liners I might throw at her, or things I could say to hurt her back. Hundreds of responses that I couldn't think of in the emotional moment the other night. But one thing I knew I would ask, and that was if a fair partner was still alive and she had to choose between him and me, who would she choose? She hesitated and then mumbled, That's not fair. Pressing the issue, she eventually said she'd, of course, pick me. In response, I pointed out that her hesitation was the very reason for the divorce, as it suggested she was still lying. This made her break into tears, and she remained silent. As we sat in the car with her sobbing continuously, I was tired and told her that we're divorcing. I emphasized our responsibility to the girls, urging us to get along in a civil way to be great parents and remain present in their lives. I also added that after all the pain she'd put me through, I hoped she was a good enough person to divorce fairly and amicably. That would prove she actually loved me. The last thing I said to her, I stole from somewhere else online. Please understand that I'm not a petty person and I did not purposely want to cause her pain. It just seemed a fitting end to it all. But I did 100% mean what I said, and did. I leaned over and kissed her on the forehead and told her that I would have loved her forever. Then got out of the car and went to bed. That was it. Of course, I didn't sleep last night, and here I am, unable to sleep once again tonight. Don't know what happens now. Her opportunity to contest the divorce has come and gone. So I guess that's one good thing. But I haven't talked to my lawyer yet. I find myself crying again and sinking back into those depression/anger phases. It was very hard hearing everything last night. And in reality, I could have done without at all. Having discovered the truth, I recognized the possibility that she could have fabricated it all for some unknown reason. However, it aligns seamlessly with everything I've pieced together over the past month. So for now, this saga continues. I experience a few good days, regain a sense of strength, and then another twist unfolds. It feels like both months and mere days have passed simultaneously, but I'm going to try and sleep. Imagine the love of your life. The only woman you've ever loved, ever kissed, tells you she cheated on you for over 4 years because she was bored. Didn't fall out of love, didn't grow apart, didn't have any relationship issues or dead bedroom. Nothing like that. Just because she was bored. Don't know if that makes it worse or better. Thanks for reading and helping along the way. Bad couple of nights. Very bad. I promise to make an effort to respond tomorrow after I get a chance to sleep. OP mentioned in the comments that his wife passed away a month after the 6th update. OP provides us with an update after his wife's passing. So many of you have reached out to me in the past weeks. So much support from strangers to a stranger like me. I do appreciate it all and apologize for not responding. I'd been trying to stay off social media. There's just been this bombardment of well wishes on one side, regrets, sadness, and even some hate from a select few. But suddenly now it's just silence. The house is so silent, the reality of the last few months of my life has set in. I resonate with Andy Dufresne from The Shawshank Redemption. It's like standing in the path of a tornado, yearning for the storm to finally subside. I recognize it's a fictional portrayal, but it reflects the current reality of my life. There's a profound absence of joy and hope, leaving behind a massive crater where my soul once thrived. Despite the immense struggle, I've been making a concerted effort to maintain a strong facade for my girls ever since discovering my wife's affair. Then the tormenting weeks to follow, the cohabitating, then the eventual heart-to-heart talks, and now, just like that, she's gone, and I find that I can't put on the strong face anymore. I can hardly get out of bed in the morning, but I know that I have to press on for my daughter's sakes. So I do. I replay our last conversation like a horror film in my head, regretting every word, wishing I could go back and say something else. Anything else? The last thing I said to her was that I loved her and that I always would, but that I wished I never had to see her again. I was hurting and vulnerable, just trying to be honest. I'm tired of the conversations about the same things, tired of her desperation and apologies. I was just tired. And now life's seemingly like part of some terrible joke. Life has granted my wish, considering they'll be without their mother for the remainder of their days. My daughters are doing okay. I suppose my oldest continues to take care of me, forces me to eat, and will sit and watch movies with me on weekends. I'm very thankful for her. The other 2 girls have kind of resumed life as normal lately with school and sports and such, which I'm very glad for. I find immense support from my mom and brother, yet each day remains an overwhelming struggle. Therapy has become a routine for everyone, and while the girls seem to benefit from it, I find it challenging to fully embrace it. There's a weight of guilt and sadness that I can't shake off. I attend sessions primarily because my oldest insists. As a Christian, I turn to the Book of Job, attempting to stay strong and maintain faith despite the profound challenges and tribulations. But I'll admit, failing at this, I just want to scream. It's not fair. 1,000 times at the top of my lungs. I thought I was a good husband and father. I thought I'd done right by people. I thought I was a moral man, but I've been dealt this horrible hand suddenly, and I can't climb out of my pit of despair. I feel weak, pathetic, sorry for myself, and horribly empty inside. Life isn't fair. Life is hard. I get it. I'm just not sure I have the fight to weather this storm. What do all of you do when you're at your very lowest point? We will take a look at the top comments before wrapping this up. You are this man, Opie, and more. Your ex is the one who caused this upheaval. Focus on being the best father possible. Your kids recognize you as the stable parent, and they are there for you. It's crucial for you to be there for them. Consider getting involved in social groups, perhaps volunteering at a local food bank or homeless shelter. Your efforts can make a meaningful impact on those who have less. Additionally, volunteering at your kid's school, zoo, or any place in need of assistance can be a positive and fulfilling way to channel your energy. You can't go back and change what has happened, and you can't unsay or unhear words that were spoken. Look forward, Opie. It will get better for you. Take care of you, the kids. Opie replied, "This is good advice. Helping someone in need is the right thing to do. Maybe lifting someone else up will help to lift me up. Thank you." Another comment. "Brother, I'm so sorry for your loss. I followed your story and I'm deeply saddened. I want you to know just how much of a great husband and father you have been. You have been so faithful and good to them all. You did not deserve what she did to you. You navigated the aftermath of her disappearance and the days that followed with grace. You did what you could, but her betrayal and affair was too much to forgive. No one in their right mind would blame you for the divorce or how you treated her. You and your children are the wounded, betrayed victims here. Your late wife suffered the loss of her AP, your love, her children's love, and her reputation. This was too much for her. She made the choice to end her life instead of putting in the effort to mend the broken relationships she had destroyed through her long-term infidelity. That decision was hers, not yours. It's important not to place blame on yourself for her death. You are not responsible for this outcome. Your last words to her were spoken in pain and anguish, emotions she caused you. It's a pain that unfortunately many of us have felt. Committing suicide is like setting off a grenade in the midst of all the people who love you the most. It was a selfish act. She was in so much pain and foolishly took her own life. I'm sure you would have moved heaven and earth to help her had you foreseen her suicide. I pray for healing for you and your daughters. I pray that you can find love and forgiveness in your hearts for her. God bless you and your family," Opie replied, acknowledging the truth. "Deep down, I know you are right. I'm just in the thick of it all right now. Admittedly, I'm haunted by all the what-ifs, and these past few weeks have been very dark with little progress for me. However, you've pointed out something that perhaps I should be working on, forgiving her. That will be quite the undertaking, I'm afraid, but maybe one day. Opie, I am truly sorry for what you've been through. You were a fantastic husband and are an outstanding father. You did nothing wrong, you were betrayed, and you handled it with grace."
Thanks for listening, like, and subscribe to Reddit Dirt for more daily stories.